Welcome back to Straight Talk with Abby. I am so glad that you're here today. If this is your first time listening, you're stepping into my December series called Peace in the Chaos. These conversations aren't meant to hype you up or tell you what you need to fix. They're meant to slow things down long enough for you to actually hear yourself think. Last week, I talked about gratitude and what actually matters in life. And I want to start today by naming something that a lot of people messaged me after that episode. A lot of people said, Abby, I hear what you're saying, but I'm exhausted. I don't feel grateful. I'm just trying to get through the day. And let me tell you something. That makes complete sense because when you're depleted, gratitude feels forced. And when you're overwhelmed, reflection feels like another thing to do on the to-do list. It just feels like work. When your nervous system has been on high alert for too long, even good things can feel heavy. So today isn't about mindset shifts or personal growth homework. Today is about rest, and not the kind you squeeze in when everything else is done, not the kind that still leaves your mind spinning. I'm talking about the kind of rest that happens when something inside you finally stops gripping life so tightly. Let's get into it. For most of my life, I thought being busy meant I was doing something right. My calendar, always full. My phone, never stopped. And somewhere along the way, I started believing that my value was tied to how much I could handle without losing it, without falling apart. I told myself, I'll rest later, after this season, after things slow down, after I've proved I've done enough. But the truth is, things don't slow down on their own. There's always one more thing to do, and the work, let's face it, it's never really finished. So what I didn't understand back then was that busyness doesn't always come from ambition. Sometimes it can come from fear, the fear of disappointing people, fear of letting someone down, fear that if you stop producing, you'll stop mattering. I didn't know how to rest without guilt. I didn't know how to say no without over-explaining myself. And I didn't know how to be still without my mind racing. Eventually, my body forced a pause I refused to take willingly. And in that stillness, something came very clear to me. God never asked me to live in a constant state of urgency and constant state of chaos, but somehow that had become my interpretation of strength. It's not his expectation. Rest wasn't something I failed at. It was just something that I misunderstood. So here's the part that took me so much longer to understand. That even when your schedule slows down, even when your body finally stops, you can still feel exhausted. Because exhaustion doesn't only come from doing too much and not getting enough sleep. That's physical stress. It also comes from holding too much. That's emotional stress. And this is also where bitterness quietly enters the picture. I talked a little bit about this last week, and it doesn't come in suddenly. It's not like a dramatic entrance, but it creeps in real slow. So what we need to be honest about is this. Life is not fair. People, they're going to do things to you that just are not right. They're going to say things they shouldn't say. They're going to hurt you in ways that are not justified. And your instinct as a human, it is to explain yourself, to defend your intentions, to make sure that your side is understood. That instinct is not wrong, but sometimes the explanation never comes. Sometimes the apology, it's never going to happen. And sometimes justice does not prevail in the way that we hoped it would. And when that happens, a lot of us don't release the hurt. We carry it. We hold it in our hearts, telling ourselves, we're just being cautious, just being aware, just protecting ourselves. But let me tell you something. Over time, unresolved hurt hardens you. Not because you're an angry person, but because we're carrying the pain that never found closure. And bitterness isn't usually about revenge. It's about unfinished business. Like we feel we need some sort of closure. And that kind of weight that you carry is exhausting. Not loud exhaustion, the quiet kind, the kind that keeps your mind running even when your body is still, the kind that shows up late at night when everything else finally goes quiet. Those replaying conversations, rewriting moments, thinking about what you should have said or what you shouldn't have said or what they should have understood. You're not resting, you're rehearsing. I lived there for a long time, lying awake, not anxious about the future, but stuck in the past, trying to mentally resolve things that never actually resolved, and they're not going to, at least not on the other person's end. Trying to carry fairness on my own shoulders. And at some point, I realized something that shifted everything. I wasn't tired because I was weak. I was tired because I was carrying something that was not mine to carry. And letting go, it didn't feel dramatic or spiritual. It felt practical. It felt like finally admitting this is costing me way more than it's giving me. I didn't suddenly feel at peace. There wasn't confetti falling from the ceiling. I didn't instantly forgive and forget. But what changed was my decision that I didn't want to feel like that anymore. There's nothing worse than hatred in your heart, anger in your heart. That is such an awful feeling, and you know what I'm talking about. So I just made the decision to stop replaying the hurt. I made the decision to stop assigning myself the role of judge and jury, and the decision to stop living in a moment that had already passed. Now, letting go didn't mean that what happened was okay. It didn't mean accountability didn't matter. It meant that I chose my peace over staying emotionally tethered to something or someone that was already over. And that choice, repeated again and again and again, is where rest actually began. So real rest isn't just about slowing your body down physically. It's quieting down the part of you that's always on guard. It's releasing the need to control outcomes you never controlled in the first place. And it's trusting God with what you've been gripping out of fear. That kind of rest doesn't come from perfect circumstances. It comes from surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means setting down what's too heavy. And what I want you to really understand is having one big moment of release isn't going to suddenly make you feel healed. It's going to be several over time. And it just letting go doesn't happen all at once. It happens in very small, ordinary moments of your life. It happens when you're driving and that memory pops back up, when you're folding laundry and your mind drifts back to something unresolved, when you're lying in bed and the old narrative tries to pull you backward. And in those moments, you don't need to spiral. You don't need to analyze it. You don't need to relive it to prove that it mattered. You just pause and remind yourself, this is not mine to carry. You don't have to be dramatic and angry about it, but just be real honest about it and you release it again. Sometimes that release lasts all day. Sometimes it lasts 5 minutes. That means you're human. So what you're really doing is in those moments is retraining yourself. You're teaching your nervous system that it does not have to stay on guard. You're teaching your mind that it doesn't have to solve what can't not be solved. You're choosing presence over replay. And over time, I promise you, very quietly, very steadily, you'll start to notice the shift. You'll breathe a little deeper. You'll sleep a little better. You'll feel less reactive, less heavy. But the most important part and the whole heartbeat of this 4-part series is you'll have more peace. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you stopped carrying what was weighing you down. So as you move through this week, let that simple phrase walk with you, not as something that you force, but something you just keep coming back to. You keep returning to it. And it's this. This is not mine to carry. So keep that on your Rolodex, on your speed dial, at the forefront of your mind, because it will release you in ways that I cannot explain. So as I wrap this up this week, I want to remind you that please come back next week to episode 3. We're going to be talking about the body. Obviously, as your fitness chick, mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. So I'm going to be bringing in the body and the fitness element, not from a place of judgment or punishment, but from respect. I'm going to be talking about the way you think about how your body affects how safe you feel inside it, how criticism will keep you tense, and how care creates space. Because peace does not just live in the mind. It lives in the body too. So until then, slow down where you can. Notice what you're holding, and when you're able, set it down. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to have everything figured out. You're allowed to be here right now, just as you are. Thanks for listening to Straight Talk with Abby. If this episode hit you where you needed it, here's what I want you to do. First, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Transformation is contagious, and you never know who's waiting for exactly this message. Second, if you're ready to stop starting over and start becoming the unstoppable version of yourself, I've got something for you. My audiobook, Your Breakthrough Era, Unstoppable Starts Here, is now available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. It's the deeper dive into everything we talk about here. And if you're ready to go all in on your fitness transformation, check out my program, Unstoppable 2.0, my 12-week program that combines fitness, mindset, and identity work to help you become who you're meant to be. You can find all the details at yourfitnesscheck.com. Remember, your breakthrough era doesn't start when you feel ready. It starts when you decide you're ready. I'll see you next time for more Straight Talk. Until then, keep breaking through.